Jill Schulman, bravery. Are you born with it? Do some people have it and others don't? Do you feel like you don't have any? At 19 years old, Jill was standing in front of as she describes I'll let her do a better job at it, but something that required a lot of bravery at 19. And how did she take it on? She ended up joining the military, the Marines, and now is published author, and she just finished a TEDx. She speaks on it. I wonder what it means to you to be brave. Wonderful conversation with Jill. Her book is The Bravery Effect. It's written in a novel type style, but open the conversation up with being a happiness scientist. Do you know what that is? Have you ever heard that before? Her degree is in positive psychology, but just a wonderful conversation with Jill opened a very, very wide area that I knew nothing about, and just very insightful, very honest, very open, very brave Jill is. And I thank Jill for her time, and thank you for listening and watching. Hi, I'm Joey Pinz, and here's my 45-second introduction. After starting my business in the 90s, I started developing poor habits of eating in my diet because I was working way too much. Before you know it, I found myself 340 pounds. The doctor told me if I don't lose the weight, I'm not going to see my daughter graduate. Took the next 7 months, lost 130 pounds. People think there's some secret. Ask me, how'd you lose that weight? Like there's some secret. There is no secret. How'd I lose the weight? Just one word: discipline. I've had other successes in life, and I attribute them all to discipline. Now, I'm not the king of discipline, but I believe that it can help all of us. Friends, colleagues convinced me to start a podcast. The podcast mission: how do we better ourselves and society? I talk to interesting people in health, fitness, sport, wellness, business, technology, science, art, and culture. And I eventually ask them how discipline plays a role in their life. Podcast vision: growth through learning from others. To you, Jill Schulman. What is a happiness scientist?
It's someone who studies the science of elevating happiness and well-being. So there's an entire field of study called positive psychology. So that is what my advanced degree is in positive psychology. But usually when I'm talking to just regular people, they're like, well, what is that? Right. And so the most common way people think of it is they call it happiness scientist. So if you think of psychology, there's traditional psychology, like clinical psychology. And what the field of like clinical psychology does is it helps people who have dis-ease. They have been diagnosed with anxiety, depression, schizophrenia. So the field of psychology usually focuses on people who are not doing well from a mental perspective, and they help them try to get to become just okay, right? Or not miserable anymore. The field of positive psychology, we don't focus on people that have any type of diagnosed mental disorder, but you take people who have an okay life. And it's a scientific study of how do you help them have a good life, or you take people who have a good life, how do you help them have a great life? So it's literally, think of it as a spectrum from like -10 people who are in the worst mental state to a +10. So there's a scientific study of how you increase life satisfaction. So yeah, it's an emerging field. It's been around for about 25 years, started by Dr. Marty Seligman, who was president of the American Psychological Association back in the 90s. And he kind of shifted the focus. Like a majority of people, don't have diagnosed mental disease. So why aren't we helping everybody live a better life? So that's what positive psychology.
In this fast-paced MSP landscape, how do you stay ahead? Introducing MSPinfluencer.com, your ultimate hub for MSP news, insights, and community connection, powered by Forza Dash. More than 75,000 MSPs subscribe to our MSP Influencer Pulse weekly newsletter, staying informed and ahead of industry trends. Tune in to emerging podcasts from Joey Pinz and leading MSP voices, offering essential tips, powerful insights, and success stories. Explore our multi-authored blogs, crafted specifically for MSP leaders, delivering fresh perspectives and actionable strategies. Celebrate excellence with the industry-leading Forza Dash MSP Influencer Awards, recognizing innovation, leadership, and impact in the MSP community. Join thousands of MSP professionals who trust MSPinfluencer.com to grow their business and expand their networks. MSPinfluencer.com, where today's MSP leaders connect, collaborate, and conquer, all powered by the Forza Dash platform, helping MSP vendors work effectively with MSPs and helping MSPs grow.
Yes.
And if they're not diagnosed, but they just have a lot of stress for work, life, whatever, does that qualify as well?
Yeah, I would say, yeah, as long as it's not like from if looking at that perspective of -10 to +10, if people aren't below 0 and
I
need
see.
professional help, but a lot of the things that we're taught in the field of positive psychology actually do help people that are kind of below
Hmm.
the below 0 point. So yes, people who are overwhelmed and stressed. Yeah, absolutely.
Hmm. What was your first introduction to bravery?
Oh, good question. It was when I was 19 years old, standing on a platform, 40 feet in the air, and looking in front of me at a steel cable that extended down more than 100 feet in front of me. It looked like a zip line. It wasn't a zip line because there was no equipment, no harnesses. And it was my turn to go next. And I was terrified.
In the Marines.
This is actually when I was 19. Before
Oh.
I was actually, I was standing on an obstacle at the Navy SEAL base in Coronado, California, but it was
Ah.
part of my ROTC unit. They thought it would be a fun idea to go on a field trip and go to the Navy SEAL base and do all these obstacles. Like,
Ah.
uh, fun for some, but I was terrified. And in that moment, my knees were wobbling, my hands were shaking. Have you ever felt like that scared where you're freaking out on the inside, but you're trying to
Mm.
like be cool, like I got
Keep it
this, but your
together.
body, but your
Yeah.
body just tells everyone that you're terrified. In that moment, I was scared, but I did it anyway. And what I learned in this experience is, and I didn't have words for it at the time,
Hmm.
I didn't realize that in order to get over your fear, you just have to take a step and do it. So when my feet hit the ground on the other side, I felt invincible.
Hmm.
And so that was kind of my first experience of realizing that, you don't wait until you feel ready or confident, or bravery isn't when you're not scared. It's actually taking a step when you are scared. Um, and so that's happened when I was 19. And it wasn't until I was, like we're 4 years ago that I actually studied this and, wrote
Hmm.
my capstone on it, where I realized that one of the things that hold people back sometimes from living their best life is there's something they really want to do in life. Right. And it's their soul's desire, but they're just scared to move in that direction. So that's how it ties into the field of positive psychology. So if I
Hmm.
want to help people live their happiest, best life, it's defining what does that look like? What do you want in your career? What do you want in your life? And what is holding you back? And you know what's always holding people back? It's fear. So
Hmm.
so yeah, that's why I specialize in helping people step through fear, not making fear disappear, because that's, if people think that they're going to wait until the fear goes away, they're going to be waiting forever.
Hmm.
It's taking a step in the presence of fear. So yeah, that's where I first learned about fear, is when I was 19.
I saw one of your videos where you were skydiving, and you talk about taking a step when you're not ready. I remember when I went skydiving, I was in the plane, and he said to me, "Okay, we're going to jump on three," and he goes one, and then we jumped. He didn't wait till three, so and obviously that's by design, just to kind of get you going. Is fear
Yeah.
the opposite of bravery?
I wouldn't say, no, it's not the opposite. I would say bravery is the antidote to fear.
Ah.
In fact, when you look at the definition of bravery, so bravery is voluntary action in the presence of fear toward a noble, worthwhile goal.
Hmm.
So fear is actually part of bravery. If if you had no fear to jump out of that plane, then you wouldn't be brave, because it would be easy. So when it comes
Mm.
to bravery, it's very personal. What scares me is different than somebody else. So
Hmm.
like on the outside perspective, like, oh, jumping out of a plane, that's brave for everyone. No, actually it's not brave for people who have done it a lot and it's just comfortable for them. So it's really like, what are you scared of? Like for me, I speak in front of audiences all the time. Like one of the most common fears people have is public speaking. It doesn't scare me at all. But somebody else to get up for 5 minutes and speak, it's the most terrifying thing ever. So yeah, fear is part of the equation. It's not, the goal isn't to be fearless. It's to feel the fear and do it anyway.
So what is the opposite of bravery?
Cowardice. Yeah, the opposite is cowardice, because we have a choice in big moments. Most people think of bravery as like the big heroic moments, like, is someone going to like jump in front of a bullet to save someone? People think of those miraculous moments. So, and those are examples of extreme heroism or cowardice. I don't study those. I study the bravery that affects everyone, like normal people like you and I. And in the moment, we have to make that decision day in and day out. Do we step toward the thing that we know is right, or the thing that we really want, being scared, or do we freeze or run the other way? And either freezing or, moving backwards would be the definition of someone cowering. I don't call people a coward, but I can look at the behavior and say, you really wanted it. You were supposed to have that difficult conversation with someone, but you decided not to. That act is cowering. And doing it once, it's a moment. Do it consistently, it's a pattern. Do that for years, now we've got a problem. Now it's your life. So yeah, the opposite of bravery is cowering.
What attracts you to bravery?
What attracts me to bravery is looking back in my own life, because everyone has fears. Every single time I have taken a step forward when I'm scared, it's led to my best moments in life. So I know for me, that has been the key to my success and my happiness, is stepping forward in it. And then when I studied the science of flourishing, of people living their best life, and I realized that fear was the thing that held people back. Like, some people have an okay life. It's a comfortable life. Some people I think get into a rut. Like it starts off as a groove, like I've got a job and this is fine. I'm making money and making ends meet. But then after maybe 5 or 10 years, they're no longer inspired by it. And what was kind of a groove becomes a rut, and they're just okay in life. Like life is fine. But if you want to live an extraordinary life where you just love your life, usually that requires bravery. So that's what I'm excited, or that's what I'm interested in, is I want to help people have their best careers and their best life. And if that's what they want, because some people just live a comfortable life. Like I've got a job, I've been doing the same thing for the last 20 years and it's fine. And I'll say, are you happy with that? Yep. Then great. Keep doing it if it makes you happy. But if someone says, yeah, I don't really love my life, but I don't feel like there's anything else. What else could I do? So what I'm really interested in doing is help people almost reclaim agency. You can shape the direction of your life. You don't just have to keep letting life take you in a certain direction. So that's at the heart of my research, and what I really care about is I want people to realize that you can have the life you want. You can choose to be happier, and I can show you how. So that choice to be able to do that. So agency is one thing I care about. And then ultimately, a friend of mine, she studied at Penn as well. Her research is on self-love. And we were having a conversation. I'm like, I think my work is really about self-love. And what I mean by that is, like, imagine if you choose day in and day out to cower and not be brave. You don't ask for the promotion. You don't say yes to the exciting opportunity because you're scared. You don't ask the person on a date. You don't have the difficult conversation. You take that exciting, wonderful dream that you really want and you shrink it until it becomes super, super safe. And that's just your life, and you do that for 20 years of always shrinking in the face of fear, what do you see when you look in the mirror?
Hmm.
Right? Sometimes people are dissatisfied with themselves because they're not making the decision to do what they know that they should be doing or want to be doing. So when people start taking a step in the presence of fear toward the life that they want, and they do that in their career and their personal life, it's amazing what it does to the person's self-esteem, their self-efficacy, and their self-love. So even though I'm not someone in positive psychology is very woo-woo, like a lot of people in my field of positive psychology are just these wonderful, positive people that I believe rainbows and butterflies just emulate from them. That's not me. I'm more the tough Marine. But if you can learn to be brave, you end up loving yourself so much more. Mm.
Amazing how that intersects bravery with positive psychology. Your book, The Bravery Effect, you really took a different approach in writing this, Jill. What do you want the reader to come away with?
Well, I wrote it as a story, so I want
Yeah.
people to actually read the whole book. But after they read the story, I want them to see themselves in the main character who has that life that's fine. It's okay. He's actually struggling a little, but overall, like things are just kind of fine. And I want people to see the gap between, if this is true for them, the gap between the life they have or the career that they have and the life they want. And I want them to learn the skills of how they can move in that direction. And everything that I have in my book comes from my academic nerd side, but I don't make any suggestions or claims unless they're based on evidence, based on psychology. So what people will learn by reading the story is I hope that they see themselves in the main character. They're inspired to really set a goal and move toward the life that they want. And then they will learn the evidence-based practical tips on what they can do to start moving in that direction. And you have to start out small. Like you're not going to read my book and then be the bravest person in the world, but you're going to learn the skills where you can start moving in that direction. And I use the analogy a lot of times, Joey, that building bravery is very much like building a muscle by going into the gym. We don't say, I want to be fit. I want to be strong. I want to be muscular. We don't go into the gym like on one day and have this massive workout and come out the next day and have big muscles and be strong. We build the muscle by going into the gym and lifting and hopefully causing a little bit of pain and discomfort to our muscles. And as a result of our body going through that stress and that discomfort, our body makes itself a little stronger. And it's the consistency of that will build strength over time. Our capacity for bravery is the same. So if someone has this fear of, let's say, public speaking, but it's really holding them back at work because this fear is just, they can't get to that next level or something like that. I'm not going to ask them to just get in front of 1,000 people and do a 45-minute keynote. That is ridiculous. They have to start off by learning how to speak up in meetings and share their point of view, and then maybe lead 5 minutes of a meeting. And then it's building that capacity, that capability over time.
Jill, when did you figure out that to make that change involves bravery? When did you? I mean, it seems natural now that you've already done that. But at what point did you make this discovery?
Well, for me, it was connecting the dots. It was taking all of my experiences in the journey to earn the title of United States Marine and also my time in the Marine Corps. So you take all those experiences, moments, and I've got lots of stories there. Like one of the things is I was one of the first women ever to serve as an officer in a combat engineering, right? So going into that, like there's so many stories where I was scared and didn't know if I could do it. But so take all my experiences. And then when I was studying psychology, it was when I stumbled upon Albert Bandura's research on self-efficacy. That's where I'm like, this is what I want to dedicate my life to. So in Bandura's research, he really has studied and the concept or the construct of self-efficacy. And his research, to make it really, really simple, is he says in order to build confidence or self-efficacy, which is the belief that you can do hard things, challenging things, that you can face your fears in order to achieve your goal, confidence does not come first. Action comes first, and then confidence comes second. So, and there's this famous study that he did where people had this extreme phobia of snakes. So let me just tell the story quickly because I think it'll help your audience understand. So in order to help people overcome the fear of snakes, he says, I can do tons of work on telling people that snakes are your friends, they're not dangerous, and it's not going to cure people of this fear, this anxiety. Instead, people need steps, little steps moving toward what they fear. So he showed them a picture of snakes. And, the people in the study are like, oh gosh, that makes me feel so uncomfortable. He's like, good. And once they became comfortable, like, okay, you looked at a picture, you didn't die, you're fine. All right. Then he brought in a video and watching them move. And again, it made them uncomfortable, but they were fine. And then he brought snakes into the room in an aquarium on the far side of the room. And then he brought it closer and closer, and he brought the enclosure right next to the people. He got it out. He got closer to them. They touched it with it. They're eventually holding the snake. So what he found is that it's the action that builds the confidence. And each time you take the step, your self-efficacy increases just a little bit, which makes you more apt to take the next step. And so this self-confidence, self-efficacy builds by taking that little step on shaky knees. And that's what I found when I was on that, it's called the confidence course on the Navy SEAL base. Every single time I was on an obstacle and I was scared, but I did it anyway, something in me just shifted a little. Right. And it's the interesting thing is this is in Coronado where the Navy SEALs go through their BUDS training, right? It just so happened that I studied in San Diego at the University of San Diego. So we had access to the Marine base and the Navy SEAL base, which was wonderful and miserable at the same time. But they called this course not an obstacle course. It's called the confidence course. Can you believe it? So you're like connecting these two things. I'm like, oh my gosh, like the Albert Bandura research on self-efficacy, like you have to take a step on shaky knees to build confidence. And then I had the shaky knees when I'm doing these obstacles. And now I realize it only took me until I'm 50 years old to realize like, that's why they called it the confidence course. Yeah.
Are Navy SEALs and Marine soldiers like yourself that do these kinds of things, are they extraordinary people doing extraordinary things or normal people doing extraordinary things?
My personal opinion is that it's the latter, the second thing. Because if I could earn the title of United States Marine and had the career I did, anyone can. Because I'm just a normal girl from the Midwest, grew up in Minnesota, had dreams that I wanted to like have a career that made an impact. I wanted to see the world, but I just say like, if I can do it, anyone can do it. And at least in the Marine Corps, if you look at, there's this famous sign in Parris Island, which is where there's two places where we have boot camp for Marines to become a Marine, to earn the title of United States Marine. There's one in San Diego and then there's one in Parris Island. But in Parris Island, there's this famous sign and it says, "We make Marines." That's what they do. So you take normal people that come in and you go through this process. Now, I was an officer, so I didn't go through boot camp. I went through officer candidate school, a little bit of a different route. But when we have enlisted Marines go through our basic training, we say we make Marines. As long as you want to, we build that capacity for bravery. You go through that process. And at the end of boot camp for enlisted Marines, they have something called the crucible. It is the hardest thing they do at the very end. And when they can get through that hardship and be brave, people don't earn the title of United States Marine unless they can complete that crucible.
Wow.
On the enlisted side. So yeah, I think, and I'm such an advocate for people serving their country, specifically the Marine Corps, because it made me a braver better person. I don't know if I would have had the career I had, and I've had the life. I don't think I would have the life I have now if I wouldn't have chosen the path, because I learned so much about it to be a Marine. Now I have a lot of friends that are Navy SEALs. That's a whole nother level. But one interesting thing that I've heard from a lot of my friends that are Navy SEALs is they say the people who survive BUDS are not the ones that are the most macho and the biggest muscles. It's the people with the most mental strength.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The difference between a collegiate and a professional athlete generally is mental. It's not the strength of the skills. Does bravery come easier for some than others? Are you born with a certain amount of it?
That's a complicated question to answer, but the simplest answer would be like, yes. Everyone can build a capacity, can increase their capacity for bravery. So it is a learnable, practicable skill. But like some people are born with natural skills that come easier to them. So if someone isn't born with that natural capacity for bravery, they can build that capability. Just like some kids, if you look at a kindergarten lineup, there are some like little boys that are they're like little tanks. They're just strong, and that's just the way they are. And then there's other kids that look like little string beans. But the string bean kid can learn how to play sports and go to the gym and become that big, strong man.
Yes.
So bravery is the same way. And then if you really get into the research, you have to look at, there's different domains of bravery. There's some people that are naturally physically brave, right? They're the ones that are just going to like jump off the cliff on vacation into the, like, have you ever done that? Like, I have must be a fear of heights, but I remember one time we were in some like Caribbean island, and we were on one of those booze cruises where you get on a catamaran and you like, you do all that. And
great fun.
You're having the rum and all that. And it's great fun. So after, I don't know how many drinks, I was like, oh, look at the people over there, like cliff jumping and so the boat said, do you want to go? And so like, I let everyone like, let's go. And this is after a little liquid courage. And I went up there and everyone like followed me. And then we got up there and then I couldn't jump. I couldn't jump because it was so hard. But what I'm getting to here is you asked the question is, are people born with it? So from the physical side, that didn't come naturally to me. I had to learn that skill. That's why I jumped out of a plane on my book launch. It was my biggest fear ever. And I'm like, I am going to conquer this fear. I'm just going to do it. But then there's also like the social bravery. Like, some people are just naturally outgoing. They can walk up to everyone and they can make best friends with a tree. No problem. Right. Other people have a lot of social anxiety, right? So there's different facets to bravery, but introverts can build the skill of having conversations. And when they decide to be braver in that domain, it'll change their life for the better. And there's a ton of research on that, right? Where some people will be like, well, I'm just an introvert and I like to stay at home and never talk to people. And that's my happiest. I would call bullshit on that. The evidence does not support that. So what areas of so it depends on the area of your life. So kind of a long answer, but it's from a scientific perspective, it's not as simple as that. Yeah.
When someone chooses bravery over avoidance, does something chemically happen in the brain?
Yes. That is really what I'm really into studying right now. So I'm so glad you asked that. So yes, we can look at the way that the brain changes in relationship to taking the brave act. And using that very similar analogy to like lifting weights, like your muscles go, oh, that was really uncomfortable. I need to change my muscles so I'm more ready to do it next time. So in our brain, we have the amygdala, which is the feeling part of our brain. It's the part of our brain that says, danger, like don't do it. And it's sometimes affectionately known, the amygdala, as the overly enthusiastic, slightly paranoid security guard in our brain, and its job is to just identify threats and tell you to avoid them. So that's the part of our brain that's trying to protect us. Now, it is possible for us to learn how to not let the amygdala control our behavior. And so when we do make a choice, when we slow down for a moment, when we feel the fear, but we know this is really important for me to do for my goals, when we slow down and we take a step in the presence of fear, we are working out parts of our brain that are not developed enough. It's like lifting weights for our bicep, but our bicep's kind of weak there. So it's our prefrontal cortex, which is the rational part of our brain, and also the mid-cingulate cortex, known as the ACC in our brain. So there's a couple parts of our brain that all of a sudden get a workout. And then our brain says, whoa, 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 whoa. We haven't really used those parts of our brain before. We maybe need to build that a little bit more in case that happens again. So what happens in the brain from a structural perspective is just like our bicep will actually get bigger, our prefrontal cortex can actually get thicker. It's called cortical thickening. And then in addition to that, we have neural pathways in our brain. So we will create more neural pathways to the ACC and to the prefrontal cortex. So it's been studied in both MRIs and functional MRIs. So like, what is the makeup of the brain? How does the brain look? That's one thing you look at, but also the functional MRI, which is looking at how the brain lights up. So new neural pathways will start forming to those areas of the brain, and those areas of the brain will get larger in response. So that's when I say you can build your capacity for bravery. It's like a muscle. You can change your brain so it will become easier to take a step forward on shaky knees in the future.
What if discipline wasn't about punishment, but about unlocking your best self? I spent 2.5 years writing Discipline for Greatness because discipline changed my life. And I know it can change yours too. This isn't theory. Inside, you'll find real, practical steps you can use immediately to focus better, build stronger habits, reduce stress, accomplish your goals, and bring more balance to your life. Whether you're trying to get healthier, improve your career, or simply feel more control, this book gives you the framework. Start today. Grab your copy of Discipline for Greatness at joeypinz.com/book. Thank you.
Fascinating stuff. I know.
It is. It's really interesting to me. So when somebody is somebody's not brave, right? They don't really admit it, right? They just, I'm just going to back away from that. I'm just going to succumb to that. That can't, I don't want to say lazy. I think lazy is a very, very bad term, but just some people are very kind of comfortable with that. And what do you do with that? Do people get stuck there?
Yes.
What's the biggest myth about being brave, I guess?
So what I would say is, I think many times fear is a little bit sneaky because it disguises itself as wisdom. So for the people that you're talking about, they're like, I am going to make the smart decision. I'm going to be realistic. I don't want to take a risk. So I am going to make the safe choice, which is really the choice to freeze or to run the other way, which is what we would define as cowering. So that is, and if we look at evolutionary biology, fear is what at one point made us survive as a species. And so we are actually biased toward avoiding risks more than going toward gains. This is Daniel Kahneman, who had won a Nobel Prize for his research in psychology, and said that we are biased toward, we are twice as motivated to avoid risks as we are to go towards something that there is a gain. So for those people, like, it is just, you are human. So I want people to know, like, I don't want to just tell someone like, well, you're being a pussy, so just do it anyway. Like, I want people to realize that you're just human and you are seeing the risk and you're more motivated to avoid the risk because you're human. If you want to overcome the fear to actually achieve your goals, we can overcome that. And there's ways that we can do that. So there's a couple like little tricks that I sometimes teach when I'm speaking on, on stages. And that is a really good way to do this is to ask people to build a relationship with their future self. And what I mean by that is, in the moment where you are facing fear and you're like, do I step forward, or do I do the safe thing and do I retreat? I just say, like, in that moment, I want you to pause and don't just react. And I want you to think about, what does my future self want me to do in this moment? And will your older self, let's say your 65-year-old self, does your 65-year-old self, would that future self look back in this moment and regret not doing this? If the answer is yes, this is fear holding you back from what you should be doing. So just ask your future self, what should I do in this moment? Should I do it or should I not? Because that's going to help you differentiate between the real danger that you should avoid. Like, if I'm back in the Caribbean and I've had my my seventh rum and whatever, and someone says, "Hey, do you want to have another shot and go down this dark alley?" And and if there's a little part of my future self is going to say, "No, idiot, like that's physical danger. Don't do that. Don't do that." So it separates bravado from like real bravery, because we're not talking about just being macho, right? We're talking about like what are the brave steps you should take that are going to help lead you to achieve your self-concordant goals, the goals that are really important to you. So it's amazing if you just ask yourself, what does my future self want me to do in this moment? To chicken out or to take a step forward because it's important. And even if I take a risk and I maybe ask the person out on a date and they say no, your future self is going to say, I still want you to do it, because maybe the answer will be yes. So, and then one other thing I can offer to you and your audience, because I know what it feels like, because in the moment when you're just feeling the fear, like, I mean, it is so hard to make yourself take the step forward. So the other thing I can offer is many times the way fear feels and the way that excitement feels is very, very similar. So what you can do is you can pause for a moment. You've just said, my future self wants me to do it, but now I'm still having a hard time taking a step. So take some deep breaths, which actually can calm, your nerves down. But you can tell yourself this, like, this is not my body failing me. This is actually my body preparing me to perform at my best. This is me excited. My heart beating really, really fast. This is my body getting blood to all areas of my body. So I am going to be the most ready to perform at my best. And that adrenaline, that's giving me energy because this moment really matters. So we can reframe fear to excitement. And that's been studied and shows that it really helps people realize that I am moving into a stressful environment, but stress is not bad. Stress can be enhancing. So with those two little tips, sometimes it just keeps people the edge. Like, here's the truth. Both stepping forward is hard, but stepping back is hard too. Because stepping forward is, it's just hard because you're facing a fear. And I know it's really hard. But you know what else is really hard? Living with a life of regret. Right? So you got to choose which hard. And so it's starting with little baby steps and then a little bit bigger steps. But when people can learn this skill of bravery, they can reclaim their agency, control over their life. And that feels pretty empowering.
Talking about when people get stuck, I have, this is purely anecdotal, Jill. This is just my experiences with friends, colleagues, etc. But I find three ways, and it's a combination. Or the first one is just I find them trying to control things they can't control, getting really stuck on that. Second is the whole holding off on happy. I'll be happy when I lose the weight, or if this person treats me well, or kind of holding off on that. And then lastly, I find living in the past, that this happened to me then, so that's the way I am now, or this is going to happen in the future, so this is what I'm going to do now. So I just find those three ways. I wonder how bravery intersects with those.
Well, in my research, we do talk a lot about the cognitive side of psychology. So I wrote down your three things. Let's kind of break them down. First and foremost, I want to talk about the one you say, we'll be happy when, right?
Yeah.
So that's a really important one. So when we look at our emotional state, a lot of people think that they can't control their emotions, that I'm just a victim of my emotions.
Right.
I'm calling bullshit on that.
Hey, me
and
too.
I'm not, and I'm saying that with the research behind it, so a couple of things, as we're on the journey to accomplish the goal and we're taking the scary steps, if we're waiting to experience positive emotions until we get to the mountaintop, then we're doing it wrong. So one of the things that we need to learn is we need to figure out how to generate the positive emotions that becomes the rocket fuel to help us get to the mountaintop. Right. So the happiness equation in many people's minds is backwards. They think I'm going to be happy when I get the promotion.
Right.
No, actually, if you know how to generate positive emotions, that's going to get you to the promotion. Right. And so Barbara Fredrickson is one of the leading researchers on positive emotions, and like her book Positivity shows you how to do that. So like if you are experiencing a negative emotion, I mean, you do need to name it. Like I can say at this moment, I woke up and I'm feeling a little bit down.
Doubt. Yeah, doubt.
Maybe doubt. I'm feeling down, whatever that is.
Yeah.
And what we need to do is we need to notice that we're experiencing an emotion that provides some distance between us and the emotion, because we are not our emotion. So whenever you name the emotion, you're like, oh, I'm feeling this emotion. Now there's some separation between us and the emotion. This is the emotion I'm experiencing. You can also get curious about it. I wonder why I'm feeling this way. So you've named the emotion, you've created some distance, and then you can ask yourself this question. What is the emotional state I want to be feeling today so that I can have my best day, have the biggest impact at work, if that is, or maybe to be the most pleasant person to be around at home? And you can name that emotion, and then you can create that emotional feeling. There's ways that you can do that, right? And just simple things like, maybe there's certain, I can put on some music. I can get my favorite cup of coffee. I can think about 3 good things that have happened over the past 24 hours. So you can train your brain to look at the positive, to put on some music, gets you in a positive emotional state. And all of a sudden, in 5 minutes, I've shifted my mood.
Wow.
And I'm like, all right. Right. So I'm so glad you brought that up. So, on the path, just think of the journey to accomplish any of these goals that you want. That's a little scary. The path is going to have ups and downs. Like the path to goal achievement is not like linear. It's not going to be rainbows and butterflies and unicorns flying out of your ass the whole way. No, there's going to be ups. And when you have ups, you want to celebrate the progress, right? And on your downs, right, you've got to figure out how can you try to generate the positive emotions. And another way to be able to do that too is you need to surround yourself with the right people that can help you be brave. So who will encourage you? So the word encourage is to put courage in you. So we need to surround ourselves with the right people who, when you're having some self-doubt and you're like, I don't know if I can do this, right? We should call and ask for the support that we need. So asking for support is not a sign of weakness. It's a source of strength. So like, I remember when I started writing my book, I had self-doubt. Like, I mean, who am I to think I can write a book? Like, it's going to be like, can I actually even do this? So I ended up getting a circle of people that were successful authors. And when I would call someone up and say, all right, I'm struggling a little bit, and I'd have a 10-minute conversation with them, it would get me right back on track. I was talking to Ken Blanchard, who wrote the foreword to my book. In the business world, he's written many, many like best-selling books. And when I was sharing some of my struggles, he would say, oh yeah, I had that same problem when I first started writing. And I go, you had the same problem? So when you seek support from others, they're going to let you know that I had similar challenges and I got through them, which helps give you more confidence. And then also, I call it the brave tribe. Your brave tribe, they're the ones that are going to say, get up and keep going, even when you want to tap out. So we've got to, control our emotions the best we can ourselves, but also seek support from others when we're having that down day. And we've got to make sure that we're listening to the right people, Joey. Like, not when I decided to start my own business, I had this great corporate job, great money, great benefits, all these things. But I really wanted to start my own company. And there were people who had done what I wanted to do. And then there's people that I'm closest to that probably care the most about me, like my mom, my dad. And you know what their advice was? Don't do it.
Wow.
You've got such a good job and it's steady and you have benefits. Are you crazy? Like, no, don't do it. So you've got to be careful if you're trying to take a brave step. Like, if it's your desire to do a goal, you got to find people who have accomplished the goal you want to accomplish, and you need to listen to them, not listen to other people. Are like, why would you want to jump out of a plane? That's insane. There was something on the news where someone's parachute didn't go off. Like, don't do that. Right. So that is my guidance on I went down on quite a tangent there, but
I love it.
And then focus on what you can control. I always draw 3 circles. So if I'm speaking in front of a group or teaching a workshop, I'll always draw 3 circles, and I'll say the inner circle, this is what you can control. You need to spend 90% of your time in the inner circle on what you can control. Then there's things that you can influence, not in your control, but you can influence. And that's the next outer circle. And you should spend maybe 10% of your time, up to 10% of your time, really trying to influence things that you can genuinely influence. And then there's the thing outside of that circle, which are things that are completely out of your control. And a lot of the reasons why people are sometimes really miserable is they spend a majority of their time worried about and ruminating about things that are completely outside of their control. And that is a choice. I'm like, you are making a choice, right? If you're just watching news for 6 hours a day, and you're just like, so like, this is horrible. Like, oh my God, my life is horrible. Well, then maybe you should read news for 15 minutes a day, just so you're aware of what's going on. You can have an opinion, and then put that aside, and let's focus on what you can control to make your life better. Yeah. So that's what comes to mind to respond to your last comment. Yeah.
Yeah. The one point about the haters that you kind of mentioned, they kind of doubt. I heard this parable recently, Jill, where a crow is the only bird that will attack an eagle. So it'll go on the back of an eagle and start pecking at it. And the eagle will not do anything against it at all. It'll start to rise. It won't push it away. It won't fight back. It'll start to rise. And when it gets to a certain point, it gets to an altitude where the eagle can handle, but the crow can't. So the crow starts paralyzing and just falls off. So the idea is that when the haters are happening, you just keep rising and they'll just fall away.
God, I think I need to steal that. I love that.
It's wonderful.
Yeah. Yes. And it also reminds me to what many times we hear the Stoics say, or I can quote William James, who really the godfather of psychology. And what William James says is, you are what you attend to. So what does that mean? You are what you focus on. You are what you think about, what you do. So just realize that we have the power to think about, our power lies on what we decide to focus on and to think about. We have agency over that. So you are where you intentionally put your mind. So, I mean, we're getting deep, almost philosophical, like I'm just going through life and this person's talking and this is happening and I'm just responding. Like, you know what? You can decide where you focus your mind.
Yes.
If there's all this other noise out there, or like you're saying, the crows, you can decide to be like, all right, it's just noise out there, but I am going to focus on this because this is what is going to, first of all, make me the happiest. This is maybe the work that I want to focus on doing in the world. So that's a really powerful one, is realizing that we have agency on what we attend to.
Yeah. So Jill, I started my business in the 90s. I was in my 20s and I was working way too hard, 14, 16-hour days. You're no stranger to this. And not exercising as much, poor eating habits. Next thing I know, in front of the doctor, she tells me I'm at 340 pounds. So I had gained all this terrible amount of weight. And she says to me, if you don't lose this weight, you're not going to see your daughter graduate. My daughter was just born. So angered me. It didn't really motivate me. It angered me more. And so for the next 6-7 months, I lost about 130 pounds and kept it off. And you can't look at these things like a finishing line. These are lifelong changes. So people always ask me, what's your secret? What did you do? And I always say discipline, right? Motivation, focus, routine, etc. How does discipline play a role in your life, Jill Schulman? And secondly, where does bravery intersect with discipline?
They are related. Think of them as cousins. Like I sometimes use the word bravery and grit. So grit, discipline, kind of, we're talking about a similar thing. So grit is defined as long-term passion and perseverance toward a goal. So basically the discipline to do the thing that you don't want to do, right? So bravery many times is what is required to take the first step. So bravery is when you're actually feeling fear. Discipline is when I don't feel like it, right? So maybe I'll decide like, well, I want to be an author. That takes bravery just to stay like, I'm going to write a book, right? And I'm going to approach these publishers. But discipline is like, now I got to actually get in front of the computer and write every day. So you see that they're cousins, they're related, but they are a little bit different there. So a couple of things that come in mind, again, like I'm always going to give you the academic nerd side of it. But if we look at Roy Baumeister's research, what he found is we have a limited cognitive capacity, which in layman's terms is like willpower. And we do need to be disciplined because we are what we do. We are what we attend to. So if I want to become a writer, I can't just state it and say I'm a writer. Like the only way I'm a writer is if I actually sit down and write each day, right? So for me to have the discipline to do that, and many times we experience resistance. Sometimes the thing that we most don't want to do is the most important thing we should be doing. So how do we do that most important thing instead of doing the easy things? Have you ever done that where you wake up in the morning, you really got to do the hard thing, but you're like, oh, I got to empty the dishwasher. And then, I got to answer some email. You do all the easy stuff first. So back to Roy Baumeister. What he found is that when we wake up in the morning, we have the highest level of cognitive capacity. So think of like our batteries are fully charged. We have the best chance, the most energy to do the hardest thing first thing in the morning. But most of us, we are going to gravitate toward the comfortable things, the easy things first. And then we just keep planning on doing the hard things later in the day. And then 5 o'clock comes around and then we just say, tomorrow. I'm going to do it tomorrow. So what Roy Baumeister, what he found in his research is you have to do the hardest thing first thing in the morning, because when you do that, you have the best ability to do it. So that's where it takes discipline just to do it. But as soon as you do the hard thing, you actually get a bump in dopamine, like because you feel like I just did that hard thing. Wow. And you become more productive the rest of the day. So this is about making sure that I call it from the stage, because of my Marine background, I have a little military spin, everything. I call it attack the day. Like United States Marines don't get up in the morning and just go like, what are you going to do today? Right? No, we have a plan. How are we going to attack the day to make the biggest impact on, whatever it is, we got our battle plan to win the war. How are we going to attack the day? So we get up and we do the hardest thing first thing in the morning. And if you do that, you're going to be more productive and you're actually going to be happier. Because when we want to do the hard thing or the discipline thing and we don't do it, then we feel like shit about ourselves because we're like, damn it, I didn't do it. Like I'm such a freaking loser. Damn, right? And that just brings us in a downward spiral. So self-love, the act of self-love is not saying, I'm just going to sleep in and just going to have a me day and eat chocolate and just lay in bed and watch Netflix. That is not a me day. That is self-sabotage. So if you want to exercise some self-care, you got to keep promises to yourself. So just get up and take the first step. And this is a habit to get into. Like, so I'm in a habit. Like I jump out of bed. I knew yesterday, what is my day? I knew that I was going to have this podcast with you. So I got up, I did my little 15-minute workout, took the dog out, did all that, had some time to prep. And because I wanted to show up and do the best job I could for your podcast. And I plan that if you're going to attack the day, you have to plan your day the night before. So then I had to think about, okay, now here's all the things I want to accomplish on Monday to be able to attack the day. Now, what do I need to do the night before? Guess what? It is eating healthy, and it's making sure I'm hydrated. It's getting to bed at a certain time so I can be rested. So there's some discipline that goes into, like, how do I want to accomplish my goals? Like, what are the most important things that I have to do during the week, and how am I going to plan those? This is where we get very into like practical things, like, talk about Goldwitzer's research on implementation intentions. Like, you got to break it down in little pieces, plan them out, and then have the discipline to do those things, and then have the discipline to do the right things so that you can perform at your best doing those things, right? And it's not scrolling for hours, and it's not binge watching Netflix until 2:00 in the morning. If I did that last night, I would have woken up this morning and been like, I don't want to get up, and I would have pressed snooze, right? So yes, discipline equals freedom, right? That's what Jocko Willink says. Yeah, and it's so true. And you're going to love yourself more when you keep promises to yourself. So don't press snooze ever again. If you promise yourself, that's the first thing, and the first promise you make to yourself is when you're going to get up in the morning. So never press snooze. If you press snooze, you are going to get in a habit of not doing what you said you're going to do. And we're talking about your integrity for yourself. So those are the two. That's my take on how the two things relate.
Wonderful. You've got a TEDx coming soon. Does that take bravery?
I just got back yesterday from it. I just flew back.
You did it already.
I just
Congratulations.
did it. I just finished it. And for someone who's a professional speaker, I haven't felt that nervous probably since I was on that obstacle in the Navy SEAL course. I don't know what about it, if it's just the stakes, because it's going to be on YouTube forever. So I had to be brave. And at the same time, I also had to remember this one. You don't rise to the occasion. You fall to the level of your training. So I was brave to go out there, but like I rehearsed that freaking TEDx like more than 100 times. And every time I did, it's like, okay, I got this. I'm a little bit better. I'm a little bit more prepared. So I think sometimes people get confused too. Like, they're like, oh, like, just be brave. Just go for it. Don't worry about it. And I'm like, well, be brave to say, like, I was brave to say I was going to do a TEDx, and I know my shit. So usually I can just kind of talk off the cuff. But when you're doing a TEDx, like, you also have to put as much training and discipline into preparing for those biggest moments so that you do rise to the occasion. Right. So I just finished it, and I'm so excited that it's over. Yeah. Because and I'm excited for it to come out. I think it takes a while. They have to like get approval from TED before it can go out, into the world. But yeah, I just did that on Saturday. And it's I've done two of them, and in one of them I actually did quote Mr. Boymeister. Yeah, so that's why it reminded me of it. Jill, is there something you believed in steadfast, wholly believed in 10 years ago that you don't believe now? Yes. I used to really think that motivation was important. Now I realize it doesn't really matter.
Right.
And what I mean by that, and you know this, I used to, I think, wait more, like I was waiting for like the lightning bolt to come to be motivated to do something.
Right.
And it doesn't happen. So like, instead of relying on feeling like it or being motivated, like, you are not going to be as successful if you're just waiting until you feel motivated to do it. So that is what I have rethought is, if we can get that truth on the days that you don't feel motivated, you do it anyway, that will be your edge, So, And then you become motivated after you take the action. It's going back to Roy Baumeister, right? Which is like, if you do the thing, you get the dopamine hit. So do the thing that you don't feel like doing, you're not motivated to do. And then after you're done, you're going to feel more, you will feel more motivated afterwards. So I think I used to 10 years ago when, because I've had my leadership development, business for like almost 12 years now. And I used to be all about like, how do you motivate people? How do you motivate people? So I think we have a responsibility as leaders to create an optimally motivating environment. And there's a lot of ways that we can do that. But we also need to teach people the skills of how to be successful and how to be brave. And for them, how to act when they don't feel motivated. So we have an obligation to teach those skills. I think sometimes in the workplace, we don't give any responsibility to the employee to do the hard thing, even when they don't feel like it. Like but there's ways we can teach them the skills. So let's create the best culture, the optimally motivating environment. And let's also teach people, how to set goals and be disciplined and be brave, because we're going to teach them life skills that will not only make them more successful in this company, but we're going to teach them life skills that's going to help them have their best life. So we got to do both.
Jill, is there a question you wish more people asked you?
Nothing's coming to mind. I guess the only thing, the idea that's coming to mind, maybe it's not a question, is I think when people think about bravery, they think about a Jocko Willink. They think of a Navy SEAL or United States Marine or a firefighter running in, and they don't see bravery as a skill that is critical to your success and life satisfaction. And so I wish more people would just ask the question, like, how can I build my bravery? Because they don't even think it's a possibility. They just think you're just born with it. I'm just not brave. Like, oh my gosh, you're the United States Marine doing all that. Like, I wish I could be like you, but I'm just not brave. So I wish people would just be curious about how can I build bravery in my life. And that's really what my work is about. It's what I care about. Is I want to teach everyone out there that wants a better life that I can teach you how to be brave. And we know it based on science. You just got to, it's like going into the gym. If you just go into the gym, if you do the cognitive exercises on mindset, you do the behavioral psychology exercises on taking the step, you do the social psychology exercises on building that brave network. If you do that, you're going to build bravery, and your life will be better. The only thing holding people back from living their best life is learning the skill of being brave. Yeah.
When you make a decision, Jill, when you're faced with making a decision, do you often or do you ever rely on your gut? It seems to me that you're a bit more science than art. You certainly have art there, but it's just your approach. You've got a master's, you're well educated, you were in the military, but is there a point where you rely on your gut? Would you say it's mostly science than art?
I have an opinion, but I don't know enough on the science behind gut feeling. And I know there's a lot out there and I'm just not an expert, but I'll just give you Jill's opinion. So I always am very careful, like,
Please.
Here's what I know scientifically. Now, this is just Jill's opinion. So for me, I believe that sometimes when people feel like it's a gut feeling, that's just fear saying, don't do it. That's scary. So for me, and it's just because I'm the bravery research expert. So I'm a little jaded, I guess. So if people think that, I feel like to the pit of my stomach, like, oh gosh, I'm so scared. This is my gut feeling. I shouldn't do it. I sometimes tell people, like, when you feel the fear, you can view it as a stop sign or you can view it as a signpost. Right. And every once in a while, if the fear is holding you back from something that is physically dangerous, then yes, we should listen to it. But so many times that gut feeling, like, oh, that's really scary. That would be so awesome, but I'm just too scared. Right. Like, if it's that type of a gut feeling, like that, it's the fear is actually pointing you toward what you need to do. So like, I need to look into it a little bit more, but like the gut feeling, like, I think people are just using that as an excuse to say, like, I shouldn't do it. Like, is it now, if the gut feeling, I don't feel it in my gut, but for me, it's what have I always really wanted? Like, And that isn't in my gut. It's more of what my soul really wants. I
Confirmation.
listen. Yeah, I think it's like, what do I really want? And looking inwardly, I'm looking for alignment between where I am and what I really want. And for me, that feels like what most people call like, that is my gut feeling. Like I'm looking for soul alignment
Mm.
on what am I doing and what do I feel like I'm meant to do. So I'm trying to create that alignment. But I guess I don't feel it in my gut. When people say a gut feeling, they actually, I think they feel it down in their gut. And again, I'm not an expert. So that's my take. I think gut feeling is people pussing out because they feel scared.
But sometimes your gut can say, let's do it.
Okay. Well, then if the gut's saying, let's do it, then I'm all for it. Yes. Yeah.
Right. Sometimes, my gut feeling is I need to do this. I got a gut feeling this is going to work out great. So it's not always
Okay, good.
fear.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you never rely on that. You get the facts and then you make a decision. You never say, I don't know, what's my gut telling me on this? However trivial the decision is.
Yeah, I think I just say like, what do I really feel about this? Is this something I really want? And then I say yes to it. No, so I would say you're making me rethink this because, like, at one point, when I decided that I wanted to potentially go back to school,
Ivy League, masters, you made all this decision.
So I didn't think I would even get in, but when I got the call and I got in, I got the call and it was the worst timing ever. Like if I would have looked on logic, I should not have done it. My daughter was a senior in high school. And like for any parent, they're like, this is your busiest year. Like you want to be the most present. They're going away. So I shouldn't have done it. I was also president of this not-for-profit that I volunteered for. So somehow I got roped into agreeing to that. And when I say yes, I'm going to give it my all. So I'm president of this National Charity League local chapter. My daughter is a senior in high school. It's her last year. My business is busier than it's ever been before. So the logical decision is defer. Just defer, because you can defer and do it the following year. But maybe it was my gut. But part of me said, F it. No, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it this year and I will find a way. And so I said yes. And it was not a logical decision, but I'm so glad that I did. I'm so glad I did. So yeah, I guess, I don't know if it's gut, but yeah, I guess you just sometimes have a feeling. So no, I let my desires, my hopes, my dreams influence my decisions. And sometimes it's not logical.
I play golf, Jill. And so sometimes, I'm at 150 yards. There's no wind. I've got a decent lie. There's a slight shift. The pin's in the middle. Everything is saying 8 iron. But you know what? I need the 7. So I let that override, and that's pretty trivial, although that can be very serious, of course. So, so it's kind of that for me. It's kind of that last gate. I get the facts, and then I say, okay, what's the little person inside say? So I guess you have something similar, but you're gathering more of the facts.
Yeah, yeah, and I think for like deciding the direction you want and the goals that you set, like that. We need to like listen to what is our soul desire, right? Like, I think that's really, really important. But in the moment, like, what am I going to do right now? It's not going to be like what I feel like doing, but what like, so yeah, let's let that intuition that we're feeling like I really like right now, here's another, probably if I were to look at the logical decision. So if I were to look at finances, I have a thriving leadership development business that I get booked out a year in advance. Like, I mean, I make a really good living doing this, but I feel called to move in this direction and to do more research on bravery and to teach this. Like, this is taking a lot of effort where I'm not making money over here. I'm putting more effort into this. Like my writing for Psychology Today and Forbes, like, yeah, I get paid, but I get paid pennies. Like I put so much time and effort into that because this is the impact I want to make. So I am making less money because I feel called to this kind of work. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if that's a gut, but it feels like more of a calling, that alignment with what I feel like I'm meant to do. So yeah, it's not always like just facts, but at the same time, I think we have a responsibility sometimes. Just there's so many motivational speakers out there that just say like, like, look at what I did. I climbed a mountain and this is what I did. So just do it my way. Like, so I feel a responsibility if I'm teaching people how to make decisions and how to change their life. I feel responsible to make sure that I teach people a way that I know has been studied. So if you do what I tell you to do, it will lead to better outcomes versus, so I think that's where I guess my scientific mind is always like, okay, this is really interesting, but show me the evidence behind it. Like, oh, well, if people do this and we've studied it, like it actually does make an impact. So I guess when I speak to audiences, that's my litmus test. I don't tell you what I think you should do based on like my experience in my life. I can take my experience and then look at the evidence. And when I see a connection between the two, then I can teach it to the masses.
What motivates you, Jill?
What motivates me? And I just said, I'm like, motivation doesn't matter, but what gets me fired up, what motivates me is, making an impact. So when I work with clients, like I can get paid a lot of money to come and do a keynote for 45 minutes. And I do enjoy doing a keynote. But what gets me even more fired up than just getting a big paycheck is when someone in the audience, or if I can do maybe a follow-on session with a small group that are really interested, when someone takes whatever I've shared and then they apply it to their life, and then I get a message on maybe through Instagram Messenger and people sharing the impact that it's made on them, that is what gets me fired up, right? That's what motivates me. So I don't think we realize this until we get a little bit older and wiser, because when you're in your 20s, you just want to like, what's your goal? I want to be rich. I want to make money. That's what motivates me, right? And I think my kids, they're 18 and 20. That's what they think. They probably just want to make good money. But then you realize you get older, like I'm 51 now. I want to make a good living. Yes, I don't want to work for free, but what motivates me is really making an impact on individuals, teams, organizations. Because when you've made an impact, you realize that you matter, right? And I'm a fan of this researcher, Isaac Prelatinsky. He wrote a book on mattering. And he came and lectured to us at Penn. And like, I just was like mesmerized because he goes, really ultimately what humans want is to matter. And he defined that as this. He said, it's really simple. He goes, if you want to matter, and this is what humans really want is to matter. He goes, you have to bring value to other humans. And when you are valued for the value you bring, so if you bring value and you are valued, you feel like you matter. So I think that's ultimately like what we all want. Like in what way can you make an impact on others? It might be someone just as a mom of 5 kids say like, I want to matter to my kids and make the biggest impact in their lives. And that's all they need in life to live their best life, because that is what they really want to do. For me, it's the work that I'm doing now on bravery. Like I feel like there's a gap, Joey. Like I feel like there's a gap, especially in today's world. I think we're getting a little confused. I think people feel like to live their best life, everything that we have is designed to make things easier, right? I mean, we can, we've got AI now. We don't even have to think anymore. We can just use that, and we don't have to go shopping. We just push a button and it's delivered to our door. So the message that I think a lot of people are hearing is to live a best life. I want to live the easiest life. And when we look at the research, and this is the craziest thing, is people who avoid discomfort, they have the highest levels of anxiety and depression. Like literally there was this study where they followed over 2,000 adults, and they found that experiential avoidance, so when people didn't want to do something that made them uncomfortable or was a little bit scary, experiential avoidance caused the development and the persistence of anxiety and depression. So the reason why I'm so passionate about this is I think in today's world, especially our younger generation, which is who I dedicated my book to, they think that, oh, I want a really easy life. I don't want to do anything and have a lot of money, and then I'm going to have the best life. No, that is a recipe for living an absolutely miserable life, right? So, and even on college campuses, like a lot of college campuses are going too far, and they're like, oh, anytime a college student is uncomfortable, where they've instituted all these like safetyism measures, like, oh, we're going to warn you if we're going to talk about something in class that might be upsetting, and then you can just opt out. It is not helping our young people. It is making them weaker. When you avoid hard things, it makes you weaker. And when you're weak, then you're just going to live in this little like cocoon and be miserable. Like, I'm so passionate about this, because we need to understand that we can do hard things and we can be in uncomfortable situations, and it can make us stronger. So I want to come back and kind of right the scales a little bit and be like, let's not be so soft and just always seek comfort, because that is a road to a miserable life. Set challenging goals that make your soul sing, and the road to it is going to have ups that are going to be wonderful and downs that are going to be miserable, but you got to get on that road and experience it, because that is the secret to a good life.
So given the motivation of impact and mattering, how do you measure success, Jill?
You're asking me all kinds of deep questions I've never pondered before. This is great. It feels like I'm getting a good therapy session here. How do I measure my success?
Yeah, given that motivation of what you said, impact and mattering. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, when I look at my success, I guess I'm always looking at myself in the mirror and going, all right, what is next? What can I do better? What can I do better? Like, how can I make a bigger impact for my clients? How can I make a bigger impact on others? And if we want to define success in life, I look at that as overall life, like flourishing in life. And there's more than just the professional sense. That's another thing I've changed my mind at. I used to be just so focused on work. And success is more than that, right? It's the quality of the relationships. Like my both of my kids are now in college, so we're empty nesters. So
Nice.
One of my biggest goals for me to be successful in life is I want to focus on my marriage, because we've just been so busy with careers and kids, and like so for me, I'm always looking at, like, how can I make my life better? Like, I always love growing. I'm always looking in the mirror and going, like, how can I make my life better from a professional standpoint? What bigger impact, but also what's the quality of my relationships? Like, how can I experience more positive emotions? So, so I try to look at it more holistically. And I learned that as I learned about positive psychology, because just the professional, like, how many people are super successful and make tons of money, but then they're absolutely miserable and they're divorced and they're like lonely. So I look at my success holistically, and I have to thank, like, learning about the science of living your best life, which is the science of positive psychology. Like, thank goodness, like, sometimes you study what you need. I think I was attracted to learning about positive psychology, but I think the reason I was attracted to it is because I needed it, because I was unbalanced. And I think I focused way too much on just the professional side. And now I'm much more balanced in the way I look at success. Yeah.
Has there been something in the last month or so you changed your mind on?
I'd say, yeah, in the last month, I have changed my mind a little bit on, instead of trying to do everything, I have now, like, 2026, I've decided to, like, do less, focus on the few things that are most important, and not try to do everything. So, yeah, because then I think that's how we can become burned out, and we can just become like, we're just trying to, you have so many goals in so many different areas. And then I love to help people because of the impact. So anyone who would call me and want to talk, because as I speak on stages, people reach out, and then my assistant says, I'm like, yes, I'd love to talk to everyone and do, like, I was just trying to be there and do everything. But I realized that I need to be more focused on, so my time and effort. So yeah, I guess I've changed my mind on like, I want to do less. I want to do less, but I want to focus more on less because that's going to lead to more impact. So it's kind of a hard lesson I think I've learned. And I'm learning to say no to people that ask for my time.
Hmm.
And I used to think that was selfish and the wrong thing. And I've changed my mind and realized that I think it's the right decision for me. And it's not selfish. It's making sure I'm saying yes to the right things. It's a hard lesson to learn.
Yeah, it seems like a quality over quantity kind of debate.
Yeah. Yeah. Quality over quantity. And really just like, what are the most important things in life? For me, it is the goals I have with the bravery research. It's also my most important relationship with my husband. Like, so I have like, these are the most important things. But if I'm spending all my time with a bunch of strangers that I don't really know, but I'm not spending time with my husband, am I making the right decision? Right.
Right.
So yeah, it's quality over the few versus the quantity. Right.
Want to show your love for discipline, inspiration, and the Joey Pinz podcast? Now's your chance. Introducing the brand new Joey Pinz merch store, where style meets discipline. Choose from premium apparel, cozy hoodies, stylish hats, durable bags, and your new favorite coffee mug, all featuring the iconic Joey Pinz logo. Perfect for podcast fans, discipline enthusiasts, or as unique gifts for friends and family. Every purchase supports the Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations podcast, helping us continue to inspire greatness and promote positive change. Visit joeypinz.com/store today and wear your discipline proudly. Joey Pinz merch. Wear it, share it, and live it. Well, Jill, I was so excited when we set this up. I'm glad we did. I thank you so much for your time. Anybody watching or listening, how can they get in touch with you?
Probably the best thing is just to go to my website. It's just my first name, last name. So jillschulman.com. The last name is 1 L. So Jill is pretty easy, but Schulman, SCHULMAN. And what I have as a free resource for everyone, because I just want to give this away. So if any what we talked about is like, I need a little bit of bravery, just go to my website. I have free giveaways. There's a free bravery assessment. It takes 3 minutes to take. And this gives you an idea of what areas can you work on that bravery muscle. So it's a 3-minute assessment. It gives you a report. And then there's a free bravery blueprint. And it gives you some of these little evidence-based exercises on both the cognitive psychology, behavioral psychology, social psychology. And I just make it super easy because remember, like, what motivates me? I want to have an impact. So I hope, at least one of your listeners like downloads it and applies it. And if they do, like, the thing that gets me fired up more than anything else is when someone will just send me a message via like social media. Like, I'm on Instagram, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm all those, and just let me know it made a difference.
Jill, absolutely wonderful. I love what you're doing. Next time I'm in the general Southern California area, perhaps you, your husband, and me and my girlfriend will get together and have a cup of tea.
I would love that. Yeah, that would be great. Well, thank you so much for having me. And thanks I love these questions. You got me to go deep and really think. So I enjoyed it. Thank you for the
Wonderful,
therapy session.
Thank you.
Have a great one. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening and or viewing Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations. Please share this episode with one or two of your friends who you think may benefit from the episode. Our website, www.joeypinz.com. There you'll find lots of resources and you could join our mailing list. Please follow us on all our social media, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Podcast information, the video version of our podcast is on YouTube. Please subscribe. Audio is on all major podcasting platforms. Please follow them. And if you like it, please consider giving 5-star rating. Would really appreciate that. Thank you again for listening or watching Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations.